Warning: this stream is rated for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tuba Swan Save the Music.org theater. My name is Scotty, also known as EBC, and welcome back to interviews with normal, extraordinary people. The funny part about all of the people that I've interviewed thus far is that none of them thinks they are extraordinary in any way, and I'm sure that goes doubly for the person who I am interviewing today, the lovely Steph Babies. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am fantastic. All right.
Good.
Um, First of all, our sponsor this month, Tuba Swan, is requesting that you go check out savethemusic.org. If you have not done so already, it's an organization that he would like to promote and ask you to check out and just go on there. It's an organization that assists high schools and elementary schools with music programs. So that's buying instruments, sheet music, sponsorship, making sure that events that they plan go down well, and also advocacy in the political world. So advocating for music programs to stay where they are and well funded in schools.
Mm,
So go check
That's
that out,
awesome.
and he would appreciate it. All right. This you are the fifth person I am interviewing in this series. I've been doing one about every 3 weeks, and I've been slowly going down through like the list of people, the council members in the conflux, other people I've connected with, and we're going to try to get some new people in here as well that aren't necessarily a part of our community, and it's just a type of thing where we get to know you. So if you don't know Steph Babies, she will tell us a little bit about herself, starting with your name, where you live approximately. It doesn't have to be very specific.
My
And
address.
yes, your address, zip code, your bank account, your social security number, all of that good stuff. And what you do for a living.
All right. Well, I am Stephanie, but you can call me Steph. I live in the Central Valley of California. California is really big. So I live pretty much in the middle, which is kind of nice because I'm really close to a little bit of everything, which is cool. And what I do for a living, I have two jobs right now. I work part time at a brewery that my friend owns as a bartender. So I do that once or twice a week just to help him out and some extra cash for myself. And then I also work part time for my dad. He's a financial advisor So I'm a client service associate for him, but I'm currently studying to get licensed to eventually be able to work with him at the advisor level. That's kind of my long-term
Hmm,
goal right now. So yeah,
cool. Now there was also a third job in there a little while back, isn't there?
there was,
You want to
yes.
talk about that a little bit?
I do because I miss it and I loved it. And it was always just a fun thing, fun conversation starter when people would ask what I do for work. But for a long time, up until April, I was teaching sex ed. I was contracted. I worked for a local nonprofit, and they were contracted by the local school districts to teach about important topics, obviously like sex being one of them, but also just abuse, internet safety, a lot of really important things. So it's fun to say, yeah, I teach sex ed, just to kind of get the shock factor in there. But it was so much more than that. Just talking about how to be safe in relationships was what was really important to me and appealed to me about that job, because so many young people just have no clue, and they look to kind of media to guide them when it comes to relationships and what's healthy, what's not.
Right.
Um, and there's just a lot of misinformation out there when that's where you're going to for your information. So,
Well, now, and a sex ed program works off of a standard curriculum that the state puts out, correct?
correct.
Okay, so
Yes.
I mean, it's not like the information wasn't necessarily available. It probably depended a lot on like the availability of people such as yourself to actually go into the school and teach that curriculum to the students, right?
Exactly. I mean, the teachers there at those schools, the health teachers, they could do it. Um, but a lot of them, I think there's a lot of reasons why they didn't want to, but one of them being it's easier to have some strangers come in and do the awkward stuff, and then the students never have to see them again,
Yeah.
rather than have their teachers who they have to look in the eye every day, talk to them about these really intimate, personal things.
Yeah, like yesterday
So we
we just had this conversation about penises with this teacher, and now we got to go in there and say hi again, and
exactly, yeah.
you know.
So um I think that's kind of the main reason we did operate on state standards. Depending on what schools, like some of the private schools wanted it to be a little bit more strict as far as what we talked about, but we made sure to cover the state standards, but still getting out as much information as we felt was important.
Okay. If I may ask, why is that no longer a job that you are doing?
I There wasn't really room in that organization to move up. Being a nonprofit, it was already just kind of iffy financially. I started living on my own in December, so working 3 jobs was I thought that would be ideal to help me kind of pay the bills, get established on my own. But working 3 jobs while also being like a single mom now, it wasn't good for my mental health. There wasn't any time for me to do things for myself, to stream, to just kind of have an identity outside of work and mom.
Right.
And when I was going through so much outside of that, it also didn't give me time to kind of process what I was going through in my personal life, which I knew down the road would come back to bite me. So I really liked what I was doing, but the organization was a faith-based organization, and there were just a lot of things that I feel like we were kind of going different ways as far as the way we thought about going, the way that we dealt with certain information.
Okay.
And then that combined with the pay being very little for the amount of time I put into it, no room to move up, it was time to go. It
Yeah.
was very evident.
Okay. Um, all right. So let's go way back and let me this isn't on the list I gave you, but I just thought of it. What is the first memory that you remember having, your oldest memory?
My oldest memory is definitely something where I don't even remember if this actually happened because of how little I felt in the memory.
Okay.
But I was so sorry in advance, like there's gonna be reveals, not about you. But this one's a little bit about you, just the way it is.
Sorry about your
When
luck,
I was
Slight.
born, my parents lived in the Bay Area, and they had a small, apartment, but standard Bay Area living. And I was sharing a room. I think I was sharing a room this late. But anyway, in this memory, I'm in my crib and I'm crying, and I'm just kind of like standing up in it, and all of a sudden, my mom's in the doorway, and like the hallway light or whatever light is on behind her, and she's just like talking sweetly to me. She's like, "What's wrong? Like it's okay. Like why are you upset?" I mean, something along those lines. Like I said,
Yeah.
very young in this memory. That's the gist of it. So it's kind of like the earliest
And
memory.
how old do you think you were at that point?
I mean, crib age, I don't know. We moved out of that apartment when I was around 2 and a half. So probably
Hmm?
like somewhere between 1 and 2.
Okay.
After that, I don't really remember anything until our house after that.
Oh, okay. All right. So what were you like as a child, like preteen, Stephanie? What was the big deal in your life at that point?
Before my teenage
Yes.
years, I was a really social kid, which is interesting to think about because I'm just not as an adult. I was a really social kid. I was homeschooled for like kindergarten and first grade. Then I went to private school for second grade. Um, grew up in not a religious household, but there, it was faith based, kind of strict. And I wouldn't say I was super sheltered, but I just kind of had a very narrow view of things. Which, like, as a kid, it was kind of sweet to have that ignorance. But I just had this mentality of I love everyone. I'm going to be everyone's friend, and they're going to be my friend. I was very assertive. I just, was a little girl with like no sense of this is awkward or no sense of fear. Like I
Right.
just know what I want. I know that I like people and I'm just going to speak my mind.
So you were like the little girl in that video who was like walking up to people to say hi and ask for a hug in the grocery store.
Oh, totally. I just had no sense of people could be bad or people could not want to talk to me.
Right.
I just thought, we're all gonna be friends.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of kids. You gotta
Right,
you
which is
gotta
so
learn.
sweet.
So, all right. So teenage Stephanie, I know for a fact that one of the stories from teenage years is hacking your dad's internet password so that you could play unlimited video games without his knowledge. And he never figured that out
Yeah.
until he saw you on my stream. And then he's like, Stephanie, what the hell happened all those years ago?
I feel like he had to know. It was on my Xbox. It was the Xbox. He had set like a limit on the amount of time I could play. I think it was like 4 hours. And I just immediately put the code in on a whim, guessed it, and first try got it right because I am my father's daughter. And just kept on going. But yeah, uh hey
And
dad.
there he
Uh
is. So
as
wait, hold on. While he's here, Yakmo, welcome. And I have a question for you. When did you find out that your daughter hacked your password on the Xbox?
I feel like he had to. I know he had to have known. For how long I was playing, but I think that he always was good at keeping an eye on me and he was involved in a very good way. I think he knew if I was getting into trouble or something was up, he would know.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because, like you said, that you just guessed. You're like, oh,
I did.
yeah,
My mind was blown. I remember just kind of staring at the screen for a second, like I got it right. It was really. It was right bumper, left bumper, right trigger, left trigger. I
oh,
remember
okay.
clearly.
Oh, okay. That's fine. That's a perfectly parental thing that a lot of people choose, so that's fine. But I just wondered if we blew your cover with that a while ago. All right. What were you like as a student? Like, what were you interested in? What were you not interested in? And what did you try to pursue then as a result as a student?
I was a good student overall, especially up until like 8th grade. I was a straight A student on a roll, very driven, just loved school. Um, but I really started to struggle a bit, not a lot. I wasn't out here failing classes. I think I failed one class ever. But in high school, it started to catch up with me. In particular in math, I just struggled in math. I think that I had a teacher in 8th grade in algebra. I knew I was struggling, but she just gave out so much extra credit and didn't really teach or help. She just kind of slapped a band-aid on it and moved us
Uh,
all to the next thing immediately, and eventually that caught up with me, so I had to go back a little bit. But I loved school even then. English was my favorite subject. I loved to read, still love to read, love to write. I think I express myself better after being able to think and write things down versus versus talking. So that's
Right.
why this is kind of nerve wracking for me.
That- That's all
I
right.
love science, uh, but yeah, math and I did not get along. But I did band in school. Music was really important to me. Played a lot of instruments. Um, and yeah, school was fine academically. I always did okay. Even in high school when things started to get hard, like I said, there's only one class that I ever like didn't pass. Other than that, I was still pretty consistent with B's and A's
Okay.
and such.
Okay. What is, let me branch off of that for a moment. What is your favorite type of writing?
I really like well, in high school I liked creative writing. I did a lot of creative writing in my English classes. As an adult, I liked to toy with the idea that I could write a book. I could write a fiction novel.
Hmm.
I cannot. I'm here to say I cannot. I do not have the attention span and what I need to do that. So now I just kind of like to write just about just general like experiences. I had a blog for a while that I no longer have. I was commissioned during COVID to write some sections. It's so random to be a co-author in this book about the Enneagram, which is like, similar to Myers-Briggs. Just because that
Hmm.
was something I was really like knowledgeable and into for a while, and so I have like published work floating around out there. Just yeah, about life, like just life and the mind and the way we all perceive our own experiences and thinking about things. That's just interesting to me. And like I said, I don't think I have a lot of interesting things to put out there for people to read. But I don't know. I think that's how I express myself best is through writing.
Um, the ADD part of it, because I also have that. I grew up with that. My brother has ADHD. He grew up with that, and we, as adults, find ways to manage those things. Um, I can tell you for a fact, even though a big part of the way that I've been expressing myself here on Twitch is through my writing,
Mm-hmm.
um, I suffer from all that and more. And that is
Mm-hmm.
writing in spurts, getting antsy after a while, not wanting to spend too much time on a specific thing, or I mean, I can't tell you how many half-written stories I have just dangling around in there that may or may not ever be
Right?
finished, simply because
Absolutely.
I don't feel like sitting down and continuing to write that particular story.
Hmm.
Um,
Like, I
and
was excited about this for a little
yeah,
bit, and then it passes. I'm like, "Okay, next thing."
right. Which is fine. Um, there's somebody I know who's a famous person, but I don't want to name them for a couple of different reasons, who has
Mm,
severe ADD, and he once described it as being able to quickly change directions without hesitation. So, for instance, imagine you got four rooms, and those four rooms are interconnected in the corners by doors. So you open the door, you go into the next room, and there's something different. You go into the next room, and there's something different. And he was the type of person, or at least the way he described having severe ADD was being able to focus on what's happening in one room and then quickly going into the next room and focusing on that and completely forgetting about the other room. And
mhm.
you have that attention that you focus on one thing at a time. And I've also found that in that there's very little that I can do that's multitasking.
Hmm.
So first I wanted to ask you, what are your experiences with that? Like, how are you at multitasking? How does that work in your mind to be able to do stuff like that?
Yeah, I remember for a long time before I didn't know, like, growing up, I didn't have, like, a diagnosis or anything. It wasn't until I was about a year into therapy as an adult that this was something that my therapist was like, like, "Have you considered that this might be a thing?" And I kinda, like, saw a doctor and kinda got more into it. But I always thought I was really good at multitasking because one of my strengths, I think one of the pros and something that I am good at is I'm an adaptable person. So I thought, yeah, I'm good at multitasking. I can switch gears to, like nothing. which I can, but then if something's like not right in front of me, it's completely out of mine. An example, a real life everyday example of that is Cage always gives me a hard time because I'm awful at texting back. But it's because I see the notification, I'll read it immediately because I have to know what someone is saying. But then something else immediately takes my attention. And since that notification's gone, I will not remember to go respond. And so that's
Right.
kind of what it's like is if it's not right in front of me, it's not on my mind. And it can be really overwhelming, especially with work, with multiple jobs as a mom, to know that there's so much stuff that needs to get done and it's all in my mind, but it's like all fleeting. It's like I can't grasp it and hang on to something and do it. And so lists have really helped me.
Yes.
And now again, I actually remember to utilize it and look at it, but like writing things out and being able to like see in front of my face, okay, are you staying on track? Are you getting things done? Crossing off as I go. If I'm able to do that and stick to it, it does make a huge difference. Otherwise, it's just a mess.
Yeah, same with me, lists. I almost anything
Mhm.
that I think of that I know I'm probably going to forget later, I will write down somewhere.
Yeah, that's something that I my dad actually has helped me with a lot. He calls it mind dumping, but if something pops into my head, learning instead of immediately feeling like, "Oh, I have to go do this right now," like jotting it down, knowing it'll be there later most of the time, it's not an emergency
Right.
and I can go back do it later. That's
And,
just made a big difference.
and in fact, it took me a while, I'd say up until maybe 8 years ago, that I'd have like all these little slips of paper in my wallet, all getting dirty and nasty and making my wallet like, extra thick, but there's no money in there. And, finally just getting a notepad app. Actually, I use a list app on my phone to
Mm.
organize everything. And I've got things in that app that I wrote years ago that I'm never going to maybe get to, but I know it's there because if I ever need it, it's right there, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I totally get that aspect of it. How did ADD affect you in school? Did you have like problems focusing on the schoolwork or studying?
Yes. I think that it didn't really so much up until high school is when it started to be an issue. Just being able to focus, especially in high school and the bit of college I did go to, I realized that for me, I know a lot of people don't feel this way. Online courses in college were a lot more beneficial because as long again as I'm disciplined and doing the things I should be doing and not letting it fall behind, I could work at my own pace. I could do it at the time of day where it made more sense to me. I could do it in
Mhm.
chunks because just sitting and listening I had classes where it was more hands-on. There were projects we would be up and moving around. Like my argumentation class, we were always like up and out of our desks and stuff. And that was one of my favorite classes and one of the easiest for me to focus in. But there were also classes where it was old school lecture. You sit there and you listen for 2 hours.
Oh God, no.
And it just I can't. I don't think a lot of people can. And taking notes sometimes would help, but then I'd get stressed about missing things and
Yeah.
it just again like my mind would wander and so yeah it wasn't too bad up until the later education. I realized okay like I need to find something that works for me, which for a while was online. It was
Right.
just better
Well, and
for me.
I always thought that if I was ever gonna go back to college for anything, even if it's just to maybe add a few letters to my name, I would do the Arizona State University online because they offer
Hmm.
something very comprehensive and it's all online and in your own time, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
Amazing that other colleges haven't caught on to that kind of method and realize that different students learn in different ways because of how your
Yeah.
mind is. You know, um,
Yeah.
like even more recently with COVID, the methods that they were dealing with COVID and these classes have to be in person, these classes have to be online, and vice versa. Well,
Mhm.
how many students I read, I don't know how many news articles about students that were so completely struggling with online learning because maybe they're the ones that thrive with in-person learning,
Yeah.
that face-to-face contact,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't
It
have a
it
plan for them.
depend, yeah, on the person, on the subject, on the
Right.
teacher. It's, no two people are the same, but we very much treat education as if we're all the same. We're all
One
going to learn
one
the
one
same
size fits
thing.
all.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know. So I perfectly understand that. There's got to be a better way to do that, and maybe eventually they'll think of it and actually put it into practice.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the basics of your childhood. Did you get into any trouble besides stealing your dad's password?
No, I was a good kid. My
Are you
parents like
sure?
to I'm positive. My parents like to act like I was their wild child. I'm like, you guys have no idea what wild what wild could be. I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't failing classes. I wasn't sneaking around behind their backs. I skipped school. I think that's the one thing I ever almost got in bad trouble at school for. Which again, I had really good grades at this point in high school, but I intercepted a letter home that they had sent saying, "Hey, you've missed
Ooh,
this many classes. If you keep this up, we're going to have to send you to like a secondary, like basically a school for people who typically aren't doing so well." But I was doing really well. I'm like, this is silly. I have over 100% in this class, but because I keep skipping, because I'm bored, because I'm doing well, you're threatening to send me away. So then I stopped skipping the class, but I wasn't skipping to go do bad things. I would go home and nap.
yeah.
So I mean, no, I really didn't get into a lot of trouble as a teen. I think that staying so busy with band and stuff and other extracurriculars, I was in mock trial, things like that, didn't allow me the time to. But then also I would want to come home and play video games. That's all I
Right.
wanted to do. So
All right. So with that, let's transition into the present. Let's start with if you could give and you may not be comfortable with this one, but we'll see. If you could give any particular personal message to the world, something that you think everybody in the world needs to hear, what would it be?
I don't feel like I have anything important enough for everyone in the world
Well,
to
but
need.
hold on. Let's reaffirm that you are an important person. Your thoughts and feelings are important, at least to me. So I'm
Oh,
asking
thank
you,
you.
maybe if it's just a personal answer to me, how would you respond to that? Something that you feel is something that people need to hear.
I think, and again, they can hear it, but whether or not they receive it and consider it is different. But I think that people just need to remember how to how to be empathetic and be kind and put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Right.
Um, like I told you before we got into this, people have gotten to a place where when it comes to your views, like it's not I'm right, you're wrong even anymore. It's I'm right and you're bad. Or I'm right and I'm better than you. And that's just not a healthy mentality. I'm not saying that you have to go change your opinions and your views completely, but just think about the way that you're talking to other people. Are you in the way that you're listening to other people? You know, that whole listening to respond versus listening to understand. I think that with social media, Twitter, being able to say whatever we're thinking without any hesitation, we've just kind of forgotten how to treat other humans, how to be kind to people, and I think that
Yeah.
that's a really important thing to know how to do.
Yeah, that was Doom's message is, just be kind. And
Mhm.
but you add a different spin on there a little bit that that people need to remember how to be empathetic.
Mhm.
Because I mean, yeah, you could just be kind, but maybe a civilized people actually spends time attempting to think outside the box and put themselves in other people's shoes and
Yeah. Understanding
really, yeah,
why someone might be feeling the way they are, why they might think the things they do,
right,
versus yeah, just being nice about it and like, oh, that's nice, good for you. But like, no, understanding understanding where they're coming from. And again, not saying that you have to change the way you see things, but just seeing remembering just the humanity of everyone and
right,
that they, have been through stuff too that you don't know about.
right. Are you registered to vote?
Hmm.
Okay.
I sure am.
Now, I'm not going to ask you about any of your politics directly, but I do want to ask you two questions regarding that. The first is, have you been able to find anybody that you have voted for recently that fits your value system?
No.
Okay. Which
No.
I ask that question because there's quite a few people that I talk to that feel the same way,
Hmm.
which leads me to believe that maybe the system as we have it now is not the best way to do that.
Mm.
Um, and the second question I wanted to ask you is, um, do you feel that it is how do I say this? Um, do you feel that it's possible to translate your principles, your thoughts and feelings on the way things should be into political action or even just things that are on the ballot that may be able to improve society?
Um, I don't know. I feel like I've it makes me sad, just become a bit cynical and jaded when it comes to politics. I
Yeah,
vote because I think it's the least I can do. It's important. But I feel like everyone's just so angry and loud that I don't know. I think that for me personally, there's probably not a lot that I can do. But again, I feel like if everyone has that mindset, then of course nothing's ever going to change. And so that's where it's like you go back and forth with yourself. I
right.
think if we all just kind of have that idea of, well, this is the way it's just gonna be, so we'll just keep doing it. And of course it's gonna stay the same. And we're all going to continue to be unhappy. But I just don't know what realistically me or anyone else could do to start to change that.
Okay, that's fine. Um, all right. So now looking back on uh, your past, is there anything that you absolutely regret doing and you wish you hadn't done? And if you could go back and change it, you would.
Mm, I think that I can think of a few times. I mean, in high school, like school, just dumb kid stuff. But there have been times where I that stand out to me because it's not the norm for me, where I was just blatantly mean to a couple different people or did things that were very unkind. And I think about them sometime and just wish I hadn't done those things, like that was so stupid. That wasn't me. That
Right.
was me, trying to fit in or just trying to be cool or whatever. And so things like that. But I mean, other than that, and feel like it's cliche to say no regrets because there are definitely things I look back on and say, could have done that differently. But I mean, I've learned from it all, and I like the person I am now, and those, we're all kind of steps in getting here. So
That's
yeah, nothing really stands out.
that's good, and it's actually kind of rare. I
Mm.
think there's a lot of people out there that really don't like the type of person they are because either their self-image is not good or they don't recognize the good things about them or um just I don't know, maybe they're trying to push, a scenario in other people's minds. So if you'd say to me that you like the person you are, I would say, as Slight once said to me, that you're well adjusted, that you have
Mm.
considered all the information and you're satisfied with who you are. Now, obviously, there's
Hmm.
probably always room for improvement in who we
Oh,
are, and
absolutely.
we try to do our best to improve ourselves over time, but uh, that I think is a great starting point for people to truly make advancement in their lives is being satisfied with who they are now and then going to reach for a higher step. Like
Yeah.
accepting that this is who you are and this is who you will be, and then being okay with that, knowing you're a good person, and knowing that you're not causing harm to other people or
Hmm.
things like that. And see, it's actually interesting to me because I remember having a couple of conversations with Slight and some other people about how I just kind of gave up on humanity as a whole, and that hasn't changed for the most part. But um, my whole issue is I see so very few people in the world that have what you have, that
Mm.
ability to like yourself because you are a good person. And if they can't do that, if they're living fake lives or, just being bad people in general for whatever reason and trying to justify that, then I don't want to know them.
Hmm.
And that's why I said I believe there is a not a natural, but like a higher percentage than you might normally see of people in this particular community that I see as good people,
Hmm.
and are the people that I want to interact with. So
Hmm. I agree.
I think that's at least one way that we've already found that you are extraordinary is that you like yourself. That's
Oh, well,
not
thank you.
that's a little bit unique at least, and not something that a lot of people are able to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I still have bad days, but I'm very aware of it. I'm very aware of the way that I talk to myself, and I remember just a couple years ago making that switch and paying attention to the way that I talk to myself, um, because you tell yourself like negative things about yourself over and over, even if you think that you're just kidding, you start to believe it. And then you start to act that way. You say, "Well, I'm a piece of crap," so then you just start to act like a piece of crap. And I wasn't doing anything. There was no benefit to putting myself down. It was only causing me to just be unhappy even more so. So just being aware of the way I talk to myself, and if I have days where I'm struggling with my self-image or struggling, with who I am as a person and think am I hurting people by doing this? Just kind of bringing myself back to center and switching it and saying, okay, what is this actually true? What's causing me to feel this way? If it is true, is there anything I can do to change it? And not just saying, oh, like I'm so terrible, I'm so whatever, and being like, and that's that, because that's not helpful to
Right.
yourself or anyone.
Well, and even that introspection, that self-questioning that you do. I mean, you can almost paralyze
Mhm.
yourself if you do it too much, but it's necessary to make
Yeah.
sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
you know. I'm reminded of a Bible scripture that says, remove the rafter from your eye before you remove the straw from your brother's eye, meaning you have this gigantic problem probably in your life, and yet you're focusing on somebody else and trying to fix their life. Focus on your life and fix the things that are wrong
Mhm.
with you first before you try to fix somebody else's life.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's really a good quality to have.
Thank you.
Um, All right. So now let's talk a little bit about your relationships, past and present. You you come from a blended family.
I do.
So can you give us a little bit of the details on how the family is blended?
Yes. It's like, close your eyes, cover your ears. So Slight is there's three of us as far as kids go. I am the middle child with the middle child syndrome. Slight is my older brother. He's older by 7 years, but he's also my half brother. We have the same mom, but different. Shaken, not stirred. Uh, sorry, reading the chat.
That's all
Same
right.
mom, different dads. But I mean, since Light's older, by the time I was around, he'd been around my dad for a while and everything. So it never felt it never felt like, oh, I have like this strange brother who's not fully my brother. Like as far as I'm concerned, like he's my brother. I've never been like, oh yeah, this is my half brother, like Slight, Kevin, whoever.
Who?
And then
So, that's not his name.
and then
Quiet.
I have my younger sibling, and they are 2.5 years younger than me. So we were definitely closer growing up just because of the age difference and everything. But yeah, blended in that sense, Slight is my half sibling.
All right. And what about like boyfriends in high school?
Oh, I didn't have those.
No boyfriends in high school?
No, I had not for lack of desire. I definitely wanted that. But boys did not like me, or at least, the ones I wanted to be with didn't. And in hindsight, I'm glad that that was the case. I think that I had no idea who I was as a person yet, and I don't think that you should get into a relationship until you're sure and feel okay with yourself first.
Right.
Because that's when you start looking to other people to fix you or give you meaning and purpose, and that's not healthy. That no one can do that for you. You have to do that for yourself.
Right.
So yeah, no dating in high school. Again, like I wasn't a bad kid. Mom and dad, I wasn't a wild child. I wasn't out, doing crazy things with boys. There were no boys in my life.
Yeah, did you hear that, Yakimo? She's raking you over the coals, absolutely, she was not a bad child. So quit harping on it, finally after all these years. All right, so what about after high school?
Yeah, so I met my first boyfriend, I guess technically when I was like towards the end of high school. I started working for our local baseball team the end of my senior year, and that's when we met. Was there? We both worked there. We started dating a month after I graduated high school, and then we just never stopped dating. And we got married, and that was my first boyfriend.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's almost like he was a high school sweetheart, just a little late.
Yeah.
Okay. And you had a child together.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Don't get me started about my kid. I could talk about my kid forever. I love my son.
How about just like some of the details on his personality?
Yes. So my son is 3 years old. He doesn't have an official diagnosis, but I mean, like he is on the autism spectrum. He just started. He's in his third week of special education preschool, and his under reason for being in that program, autism is the first one, and then the secondary qualification is speech disorder. His speech is delayed, and as far as like what he understands, there's just some delay in communication. But he is so cute. Obviously, I'm biased, but also just very highly intelligent.
Yeah, has any parent ever said, "Boy, I got an ugly child"?
Right? But he's really smart. And again, biased for sure, but he really is. He's 3, but he is out here spelling colors and counting to 100 and randomly deciding he's going to say some things in Spanish today when he does talk. And he loves to see how things work. He likes people, but also is just very much so, again, like kind of similar to me, that he's content just observing, watching people, figuring how things work. He's very independent, wants to play on his own, be on his own. I think kind of growing up through the pandemic, like those toddler years definitely has a part in that. He doesn't really know what to do around other kids, so it's good he's in school now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is just so funny and so active and just the best.
That's good. How old is he now?
He is 3. He'll be 4 next month.
Okay. Now you got divorced from that relationship, but the way you described it sounded very amiable. Like both sides decided to not necessarily be friends, but just part amiably, and there's no disturbance in that relationship now. Is that
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we were together almost 10 years. We got married in 2014. And something we've both talked about is how, not again, not saying that I regret getting married, but we just kind of wish that we had waited longer. I was 20 when I got married. We'd been together 2 years, and how we just kind of think, things would have been different if we had taken some time to kind of figure out who we were as adults first. Sometimes people get married young and they're all for it and it lasts, and that's great. But I do think that knowing that, our brains aren't fully developed until age 25, there's something to be said for allowing yourself to be kind of single through that time, not dating, but just, figuring out yourself, living on your own. I think that that has some benefit to it. But yeah, we don't hate each other. He's a great guy, an amazing dad. I think that we both agree that there are things we both could have done, to try to make it work. But it was not aligned in what that looked like. And so we're very thankful. We talked about this the other day, how we don't hate each other. And our son isn't going to grow up with parents who don't talk or can't stand each other, because that's a common thing, unfortunately. And we just thankfully do respect one another, and we talk almost every day about, our son and how he's doing in school, the silly things he's doing, because we're always going to be in each other's life. We have this child together. And it wasn't it aside from, just a marriage, like, that was my best friend. And so just kind of managing that and saying, okay, this relationship, this friendship, it's different now, but we can still appreciate the time we had and respect one another, and just, again, be kind to one another, and, celebrate our son and the amazing things he's doing and the ways he's growing.
that's got to be one of the biggest things that I think people that get divorced forget is what about the
Hmm.
good times?
Hmm.
I mean, it can't all be bad. Even the worst of couples, it can't all be bad. There's got to be some good times. And have you forgotten those times? Well, obviously, you just said you didn't,
Yeah.
and you both are in agreement about that. But I mean,
Hmm.
that's probably one of the, and maybe this is another way that makes you extraordinary, is that that's got to be one of the rarest forms of divorce that there is that
Hmm.
amiable separation where you have done that. You focus on just how much of a good time you did have together, but it just didn't quite work out enough,
Hmm.
you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
There are a lot of good times, but there are also just certain breakdowns that, you know, were kinda just bigger
yeah,
bigger than that, and maybe they could have been fixed, but at the end of the day, they weren't. And so, we could what if ourselves to death, but the fact that we're both, kind of been through that and have agreed we're both just ready to move forward, as individuals and as co-parents, it's a really good place to be. I'm very thankful that it is on as good as of terms as it is, because it could be a lot worse, and for so many
right,
people, it is.
right. I mean, even just the relationship part of it, you still have to keep contact with this person if you're, sharing custody and whatever else. You're
Mhm.
gonna have to deal with them at some point. Why make that any more difficult than it has to be?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. So now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about um, a little bit of your internal processes. What is something that is vastly important to you, like it crosses your mind every day, besides your son?
I was gonna say my son. Um,
Because that's almost a given. You're going to be trained on making sure that his needs are met, and probably before your own as well. But yeah, we're just talking about you.
um, crosses my mind every day. I think my family is one of the most, if not the most important things to me.
Hmm.
Like, my son aside, also just my mom, my dad, my brothers. Like, I love my family very much, and I feel like we're very unique. It wasn't until recently that I started to realize, oh, like it's not always normal for us to be this close. Like
Right.
I go and I hang out with my mom every week and we watch TV together and I work with my dad and I also consider my dad like one of my best friends because we have so much in common and I I get along really well with both of my brothers and it's just for that because a lot of families sometimes under like it's valid there's valid reasons behind it but just aren't close in that way. But my family is really important to me. I really care about all of them and their health and well-being, and kind of going along with that is just my health in general. That's something that I do think about every day, and whether it be like, do I have time to work out today? Could I be eating better? Whether or not I do, I still think about it. It still crosses my mind, just because I see various health things as my grandparents and parents get older and such pop up, and it's like that thought process of how do I avoid that and how can I prolong my life and be as healthy as I can to be there for my parents when they get older and to be there for my son as long as I can. So family and health.
Okay. Um, what goals do you think you have for your immediate and long-term future?
Immediate future, I have, like I mentioned earlier, I'm working to get licensed to be able to go the financial advisor route with my dad. So studying for those tests, passing those exams, that's kind of like the more immediate goals.
Hmm.
Long term, being a financial advisor is my goal. And then
Hold on a second.
just,
What college education do you have under your belt at this point?
I have an associate's degree,
In
communication studies.
Okay. So you probably haven't really done necessarily a lot with that specific degree.
Not really. It's one of those things where it's vague. So it can apply to a lot of things. I've had so many just odd jobs, but none that I've gotten because of that degree. And in general, I mean, this is a whole other tangent, but I feel like at this point, an associate's, a bachelor's, even a master's now to some point, to some extent, it's a degree. You do it because it's like a checkbox for your employer. Even though so many people I know, they have their bachelor's, their masters, and they work in a field that doesn't have anything to do with that. But
Yeah, I
for
gotta.
my career, yeah.
I really gotta wonder about that. How HR people and recruiters and all that. I mean, you're gonna hire maybe somebody who isn't qualified for the job simply because they have a degree in something else. And I've heard that
Exactly.
from a couple other people before that, basically you can't get a good high paying job without a college degree. Well, I actually disagree
Mhm.
with that whole assessment. But
Mhm.
I find it real interesting that that seems to be like an industry standard. Oh, you want a good high paying job, you have to go and get highly in debt to get this
Mhm.
higher education that may or may not help you to do what you want to do. Um,
Exactly.
and
Which again, to be
I'm very
an advisor,
skeptical of
like I
that.
do have to finish. I have to finish my education. I have to get a bachelor's degree, and I'll be able to do that, thankfully. Down the road, finish it out. I'm only have 2 years left. But yeah, again, same thing. They just want to see that 4-year degree
Now that
on your resume.
I could maybe see because there's some government licensing involved and they're
Mhm.
requiring a minimum education on that. But I don't know. To me, it just seems like uh, the HR departments and recruiters put way too much emphasis on that without it actually being able to help you in the job that they want you to do. I remember going to college for 3 months to the now defunct ITT Tech School for computer aided drafting because I wanted to be
Mhm.
a drafter, and I dropped out after a while for several reasons. And looking back on that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, the whole reason ITT went defunct was because they made false claims to by from their recruiters on how easy it was to get a job in the field after you
Mhm.
finish their expedited course. And yeah. Okay, so Yakmo, yeah, I was learning on AutoCAD 14 and yeah. Um. All right. So sorry I interrupted that, but what I was driving at with that is, aside from you had mentioned your now getting your bachelor's, to pursue the financial, um what, I just forgot the word, uh consultant, basically, financial
Mhm.
consultant. Is there anything else that you would like to pursue in higher education to achieve those immediate, if not long-term goals?
Other than having to do the bachelor's, not really. I feel like I if I didn't have to get my bachelor's, I would be okay not having it either, which wasn't always the case. I always felt kind of embarrassed to admit that I didn't I didn't finish college because I got into college on scholarship. Um and I didn't finish and that just is what it is and I'm okay with that now. I'm good off higher education. So no, for those goals specifically, yeah, I don't think that beyond the bachelor's there's anything as of right now that I would look to pursue.
Okay. What about specifically long-term goals, 20, 30, 40 years from now?
I definitely in California, it's really difficult. I can't emphasize, I mean, just in general, but it's hard to get ahead financially in California for a lot of people. So being able to be financially stable to me is so important before I consider so many things. I want to be able to, not be in debt, feel not just like, I'm paying my bills, but I'm paying my bills and able to put some money away.
Right.
Just financial independence is really important to me. Being able to have my own home is also definitely a goal for me. Beyond that, like I feel like once I have those under my belt, it's kind of just allows for a lot of freedom and having that freedom to do things I enjoy, to help other people who maybe aren't as fortunate. That's really important to me. Um, yeah, so as far as long term, that's kind of the 2 on my mind lately.
Okay, if financial was suddenly no longer a concern, what would you
Mhm.
pursue?
If I could do anything,
Yeah.
like, as a career
As a
or just in
career or as a
general?
lifestyle? Yeah, any of it.
I don't know, I do really enjoy streaming. I wish that I could dedicate as much time as I want to streaming because I enjoy it so much. I mean, I can play games on my own, but being able to hang out with this community, these people that I consider really good friends, being able to meet new people, share games I enjoy with people, make content like that to me, it's just it gives me so much joy. Um, so the streaming more, being able to put more into my stream, put more content out, but then also just being able to travel. That's something that's really important to me. I want to I'm a big baseball fan, so I want to visit all the Major League Baseball stadiums, and I want to go to all 50 states, and I want to go to all the big national parks, and just being able
Um,
to see
how
the
ma-
world.
how many baseball stadiums have you been to thus far?
I need to let's see. I've been to Giants where the Giants play. Been to where the Padres play. I've been to all the California ones except Dodger Stadium.
No, the
So that
Dodgers
right
suck anyway,
there,
so okay.
they're like on last on my list because they're my team's rival. So I've been to 4 here in California. I think that means, and then I've been to Coors Field where the Rockies play. I've been to Target Field where the Twins play. I've been to Progressive Field where the Guardians play, and I've been to PNC where the Pirates play. So I think that's 8, if I'm counting
Yeah, that sounds
correctly.
right.
8 that I've been to. Out of 30.
Okay.
So I got
You,
some work to do.
you got, yeah, well, and you also have to firm up your list on that. 'Cause it sounds like you were trying to do that off the top of your head. And how many different states have you been to?
Gosh. Again, off the top of my head,
Is it better to say
I
what states haven't you been to?
I haven't been to most. I've been to
Oh, okay.
California, I've been to Oregon, I've been to Tennessee, been to New York, um, been to Florida, been to Ohio, been to Minnesota. I've been to I guess I've been to I mean, I've been to DC. Um,
What about specifically Oregon or Washington?
I haven't been to Washington. I've been there for a layover, so I don't count that. But I have been to Oregon. I've been to Portland. I've
Okay.
been to different other areas of Oregon too, with just on family trips and stuff. So I've done Oregon at least.
Okay.
Nevada obviously is close too, as I've been there. New Mexico, Utah. I've been to more, but I did a lot of them as a kid. We did a lot of like family road trips,
Hmm.
but unfortunately, there's just so much I don't remember that I
Yeah.
would love to kind of do as an adult as well.
Okay. Um, any other long-term goals besides travel and seeing the sights and streaming?
Mm, no, just
You don't want to go to the moon or
no. I'm pretty like content. I don't. I have no interest in going into space. I just I'm pretty happy if I just have financial security. I can go pack up and go if I want, see something, take care of my family. Then I'm content. Take
okay.
care of other people. Yeah.
And real quickly, are there any specific foreign countries that you would like to visit?
Yes, I really want to go to Japan. I want to go to Italy. Those are kind of like the big two for me. But then also Spain. My mom has like like I have like ancestors from there pretty much. So that'd be cool to do. I'm from Mexico, so I feel like I should go to Mexico. And then I'd like to go visit Isward over
Okay.
across the pond as well. Go
Uh,
harass him.
scuba diving, skydiving, rock climbing.
I am terrified of the ocean, but my boyfriend said that if I go scuba diving with him, that he will go skydiving with me. So, and I do want to go skydiving. So, yeah, I'm definitely an adrenaline junkie. So, skydiving, rock climbing, I'm down for all of that. It's just the ocean that terrifies me. Like the thought of going on a cruise, like, does not appeal to me in the slightest
Okay.
at all.
All right. Well, that leads me to want to question some of your phobias besides the ocean. But we're gonna take a short break here, and that'll be the first topic we visit when we come back. So, stay tuned. We'll see you in just a bit. All right. Welcome back. Don't buy a damn thing. Whatever Twitch was trying to sell you, it's not worth it. I'm just stealing ad money from them. Thank you. All right. So we're back here with the incomparable Steph Babies. We came up with that word yesterday. Like, I mean, that's the word of the day to describe you because there's nobody quite like you in a lot of ways. So now we're going to dive into some kind of uncomfortable things a little bit. Let's start with phobias. What are some phobias that you know you have?
As there's like stuff that you're afraid of. As far as actual like phobias, roaches is the one that comes to mind immediately every time. I can deal with spiders, I can deal with bugs, they're annoying, but I can push them and kill them. There aren't words for besides phobia, that's the word, for the amount of fear I feel when I see a roach. I just especially if I'm thankfully in this apartment, I haven't seen one yet, knock on
Yeah.
wood, because I've definitely seen them on the grounds outside. But in my home I was living in before, that area, I mean, the pest people would tell me, "Oh yeah, like this is a really bad street for it." And every July, at least 3 would make their way into the home, and it's like just the worst possible jump scare. I can't sleep until it's killed. It's I cannot deal. Yeah, for the roaches, I guess would be like my only true phobia. I mean, there's things I'm afraid of like snakes, creep me out. The thought of being caught in the middle of the ocean and drowning and dying, that scares me. But roaches are really my only phobia.
Have you ever analyzed that and wondered what exactly about roaches it is that causes you to get your, as our friend Isnib would say, knickers in a twist?
Yeah, they're awful. That's the
uh,
analysis. They're awful. They're like so difficult to kill. I don't think I need more reason.
Okay, that's fine. Um, I just wondered if there was like a psychological reason behind it
No,
because
there wasn't like something that I can think of where I woke up covered in roaches or anything. They just, I don't know, they're just so unpleasant. So unpleasant.
there's a as soon as you said that, I was reminded of an X-Files episode where there was a scientist as part of a government agency that was creating cockroaches that were robots,
Hmm.
and they were trying to mix them in with regular cockroaches. So like they had this test home that was just completely infested with like thousands of cockroaches, and they were coming out of the walls and everything. And it was
Oh,
you should see it. It was
no, I shouldn't. I watch a lot of Bar Rescue, and every time
oh yeah.
like they dramatically like jump to the roaches, I'm like, no, why? It's the worst.
Okay. Are there any potential phobias that you do not know about or that you think might be phobias? Like
I don't I don't
things you're kind of wary of engaging in.
Snakes. I mean, I don't want to engage in snakes, but
Or
snakes in general. Um, like mice, rats. I don't. The idea of having like if I see one out and about, whatever, don't like it, that's fine. But the idea of like having one in my home specifically, and my mom, I definitely get that from my mom. My mom does have a phobia of mice and rats, and just growing up around that, I think I picked up a lot of that just shared fear of them.
so
And
you
it's funny because if it's hamsters, it'd be fine. It's the tail, man.
so it you wouldn't have like a pet garden snake.
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay. Um, do you have any pets?
No, I don't at the moment. Sadly, I've always had pets. I grew up with a bunch of dogs. When I was married, we had two cats, but as of right now, it's just me and my son and the occasional flies because it's summer and the flies can just be
Right.
around in the summer.
Right. Yeah, it's tough to make flies a pet, you know. You can
Yeah, they don't. They're not a very cute
that
pet.
out of there. It's hard to like, pet them on the head and all that, you know.
Yeah, be affectionate with them doesn't really work.
So if you had a choice to go get a pet today and you were, ready for that, what do you think you would do?
I was at a place where I could get the pet I wanted because in my apartment I already got a cat. I do want a cat in general. I miss having a cat, but I'm a dog person. I would love to adopt a dog. I am not keen on buying dogs personally, so I like the idea of adopting.
Hmm.
That's how I mean got my cats growing up. We adopted like most of our dogs.
Right.
But as far as like if I had to pick a breed, I do like bigger dogs in general, not a small dog person. So some kind of like lab retriever, even a corgi, like something in that size range.
Saint Bernard or Great Dane or some other
Not
kind of
not
elephant?
that large, but even those, like I love working at the brewery because we allow dogs, and we had this Great Dane come in recently where it's like having a little horse
Yeah,
in the brewery. They're so big, not for me, but they're amazing and majestic.
right. Okay. Um, is there anything in particular that I mean, we had already discussed previously that you were pretty well adjusted, that you like yourself. Is there anything that you really don't like about yourself?
I have a really hard time saying what I'm feeling, knowing what I want. Um, and I wish that it was easier for me to just speak my mind, to not care if I'm going to upset other people. And that's why I think empathy can be a blessing and a curse because I'm always very aware of how people might be feeling.
Hmm.
But it also kind of creates this analysis paralysis of is this actually what I want or is this what I know this person I want this person wants? because that was kind of like an issue with my previous relationship. Is you kind of it was easy for me to morph my desires and my wants with theirs, and then eventually you realize, wait, like
You
I
don't like
completely
that.
lost myself. Yeah, I don't like this, and I don't want this, and I actually don't agree with this, and I don't like this, and I wish I could eat. I'm something I'm working on and getting better at, but being able to say just more matter of factly what's on my mind, what I want to do, what I don't want to do, what I like, what I don't like. I just wish I could be more assertive, I guess.
Um, Obviously, on some level, the separation has given you the chance to do that. But what are some of your internal mechanisms and methods for identifying this is what you really want, as opposed to what you think you want based on what other people want?
A lot of the time, if it's just a lot of the time for smaller things, if it's just with friends or with people in general, I know. Like I know if it's something I want or if I'm just going along to get along. But for bigger things or more serious things, I have to allow myself time, which can be hard for some people who want like immediate responses, immediate answers, immediate solutions to disagreements. I need that time to kind of separate and be to myself and sit with it and think, if I'm saying I want this, why? What's the why behind it? And if it always comes back to other people, like this would make them happy, this is, good for them, it's not something that benefits me at all, it's not something that I want or identify with, then I know that that's not something that I want. And sometimes it's okay. Like it's okay completely to put other people first sometimes. It's not wrong to do things to make other people happy, but when it comes to your identity and like details of life, big decisions, just doing things because the other person wants this, so I'm going to do it. It's not always the best way of making life choices. So just giving myself that time and that grace to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't know. Let me think about it. I'm not upset. I'm just not saying no, not saying yes. I just want to be true to myself and also be honest and real with you. And in order to do that, to be transparent with you, I need this time to sit with this and think about it.
Right.
Mhm.
So you obviously you were articulating how that works internally. So if I were to say to you, this person over here has that same problem, how would
Mhm.
you uh, put together to say to them how you have best found to combat that? Like what advice would you give them?
If someone was struggling with that sense of knowing, I guess it is an identity thing, and to an extent, to knowing how to say no and how to like identify what you want and how to just not get so lost in people. I would tell
Wait, wait,
them
let
to,
me interrupt you there, because
yeah.
I want to correct something you said there. At least I think it needs correcting too. Getting lost in your empathy. You're not
Hmm.
getting lost in
Yeah.
people and all that other stuff. You're getting lost in your own empathy that's trying to figure out what other people want and then match that.
Hmm.
Okay,
I
so
think it could definitely be both, but yes, you're getting lost in your own empathy as well. And I think that just telling them to spend time alone, to for some people, for me it's journaling, being able to like write down what I'm thinking, and it's almost like creating a map with words, like
mhm.
here's what the situation is, what I'm working through, how did I get here, like just working backwards through it. And if you could trace it back to yourself and you feel good about that and you're able to find, oh yeah, like this is why this is important to me, that helps a lot. If you just feel like you're going in circles and you can't really see, you just feel lost in it and you feel like you can't identify that. You're just like, I don't know. I just feel like this is what they want. Then you really want to look at that and say, well, is that what you want then? Do you feel like that's the best decision? Or are you just again going along to keep the peace, which in a relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, a family relationship, keeping quiet, not speaking up, just doing things for other people all the time because you're lost in your own empathy, you're lost in whatever. that's not healthy. And that's going to hurt the relationship. That's not healthy communication. That's lack of communication completely.
Right.
So just encouraging them to be honest with themselves, to journal, to spend time alone, um, to allow themselves to kind of think through that.
Now, I want to focus in on one very specific part of that, and that is opinions. Now, nobody has all the facts. And
Hmm.
as somebody pointed out to me again recently, I remembered it, but I didn't, like actively remember it until they said something. There was a radio show host called Paul Harvey back in the day who would end all of his stories with, or his monologues with, and now you know the rest of the story. And that was his whole spiel, was you may know this part of it, but did you know this part of it? Um,
Hmm.
so in talking about empathy, and in particular your issue with separating your empathy with how you really feel about it, and asserting your feelings in the matter, you and I previously, not too long ago, had a conversation about sharing opinions, and you said that you were not necessarily comfortable doing that in an open forum because you actually get some anxiety from
Yes.
not wanting to offend other people.
Yes.
So,
Well, it's not, yeah.
so obviously, in something like voting, where it's private, and making
Uh-huh.
your own decisions as to things like that that match your values, that's not a big deal. But on a broader scale of interacting with people, what are some things that you have found difficult to deal with in making sure that you are not put secondary because of your opinions?
I don't know off the top of my head. And I think it's because I do tend to keep my opinions to myself so that they're not an issue. Um, but I feel like, for example, if I were to talk about my religion or my faith or my vote or things like that, for a lot of people, they jump to these conclusions about you. And I feel like I don't want people to see me as that, like, "Oh, you're a Christian, so all these things are true about you," or "You voted this way," or
Right.
"You didn't vote this way, and so now we have no regard for who you are because of this." And I think that that's not fair, and I don't wanna be put in that position, because if someone is kind and they love others well, and they're, like, respectful, I feel like that should be, enough to some extent. And then beyond that, you believe and that's fine. But a lot of people don't have that perspective. And I have seen just a lot of people that I do care about who ignore that, who do believe sometimes different things than me, talk and very publicly about just how like just like hate almost that they have for people who have these certain points of views.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to come across people with that mindset where now I've lost people I care about because I just have different views on things, and not even me saying this is the right way or the only way. I just might have a different opinion. And to me, I feel like we can still be friends or still be family, but to them, they're like, no, this is it. And that's hurtful. And so I just want to avoid that hurt, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right. Um, did you ever hear um, a description of the United States Civil War where they were talking about brother fighting brother? Does that ring a
No.
bell? Um,
Mm-mm.
yeah, it was used to describe the concept that many times you would have family members that were on opposite sides of the dividing line of the war. And depending on what was going on with like the people that were actually involved in active combat, you sometimes had family members fighting against other family members on opposite sides of the war. And obviously civil war like that is kind of uh, even worse than other wars in that regard, that it really kind of pits people that are otherwise usually homogenous against each other. And I find that in my old age, um, if you ask me a question, I will answer it.
Mm-hmm.
I might warn you ahead of time that this is something you do not necessarily want to hear based off of what
Mm-hmm.
I know about you. But I will answer any question. So if somebody
Mm-hmm.
says, hey, Scotty, what do you think about President Trump? I'm going to tell you, well, he's a blovish asshole, and I don't care. That to me is uh, an important part of a, a level of honesty, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not necessarily going to hide, although more recently I have totally understood the feeling you just described as uh, in order to either keep the peace or to avoid controversy that should never be happening in the first place, I'm not going to give you my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get that, and I understand that, and that's why more often than not I will simply not keep in contact with certain people that I know are not going to be accepting of my opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so on that note, the first thing I would ask you is, do you find yourself distancing yourself from other people that you know that about them, that if you were to share your opinions, they probably would just, you know, violently say, fuck you and I don't want to talk to you anymore or whatever?
Not so much. I don't feel like I have anybody in my life like close to me that is that way. There's like people, I
Hmm.
know if like friend of a friend or from school who I see that they have that mindset like on social media and stuff. But as far as like immediate people in my life right now, I thankfully don't have people that are that way. I have one person in particular who has very strong opinions, like I'm right, you're wrong, but they still love me and I still love them. So I just kind of avoid those conversations with them. And so even with them, it's okay. And if someone were to ask me one on one, I am really good at conversation one on one. And I don't mind talking about those things if we're sitting down. But I feel like in groups sometimes there's that group think, and we see that on Twitter, right? We see everyone get all riled up together. It's and I also in high school, I started to realize, and then as an adult, I was diagnosed with social anxiety. So the idea of being in a group already makes me really nervous, but then in a group talking about things that whether they should be or not, they are controversial now. It's just if I can avoid that, I will. Because I have people in my life who can talk about these things with me. We love each other regardless. We could talk and still be okay, and that's enough for me. I don't need to, go and put myself in the position to just leave feeling super down and anxious and wanting to throw up.
Right. And I mean that's the way it's supposed to be. You're not
Hmm.
supposed to allow things like differences of opinion to divide you to the point where you don't want to talk to these people anymore. It's
Hmm.
funny, at least to me, the psychology behind that. Like you said, you learned, if I heard you correctly, you learned as a young adult, like in school, that you have social anxiety and that you don't want to be around groups. Well, that's completely opposite from what you said you were as a child.
Yes.
And it almost seems like you have gone through maybe this kind of standard learning process that children go through to find out that, oh, this is not necessarily a world that you want to be social in.
Yeah, I'm sure that that's definitely a part of it. And just, yeah, I think, you know, I was, like I said, a very social kid, but as you learn more people, and then just other various kind of more difficult things I won't get into, but that I did go through. Um, it's just, yeah, it's become like this social anxiety and being paralyzed about other people, just being around them. And I think that what you said is definitely part of it. Like, oh, I Like, we're not all going to be friends, or there are bad people out there, not bad because of their opinions, but people who like do want to hurt you or will like potentially hurt you. So I guess it is kind of that coming of age thing, like I said, that started that shift from being a social butterfly to, the anxiety and the becoming an introvert happened around high school. And I think it
Do you
was
know,
just kind of that learning more about the world and people.
do you know approximately or more specifically when that occurred? Like at what age?
I would say seventh grade, middle school. You're already going through all those things, and so I think that that's when the shift started to happen. And so it's always funny to me when, like, not to throw Slight under the bus, but like my mom and Slight always very much so say, oh, you're not an introvert, like you're always been so social, you want to go do all the things. And it's like, no, that's not the case. I can talk to people very well, and I can go to things, and I can manage it really well, but just because I've had it, for so long, that I've learned how to manage it. And I've learned that for me, kind of putting myself in those situations helps. That's why through the pandemic, being in quarantine, I feel like for a lot of people, and I was one of them, it felt like almost like starting over. Like the anxiety was much higher when it came to being able to go out with like be around groups and people again.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I forget what the question was. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's all right.
it's definitely different.
The reason I said all that was because for me it was a slightly different experience, and that was
Hmm.
I was trying to be social. I was trying to be extroverted. I was doing all of these things as a young adult, as a graduate, and then into, career years. Like my first career per se was being a disc jockey, which is very people centered. You're talking to people
Mm-hmm.
constantly in a bar setting where they're just drinking and they're dancing and having fun, and you don't want to kill the mood, and you got to play the right music, and you got to have good customer service and people skills. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it wore on me so freaking much, to the point
Mm-hmm.
where 15 years later I said, okay, that's it, I'm done, and I'm retiring from this altogether. Now, there was
Mm-hmm.
little things that I could do, like putting my DJ table in a specific way so that it formed a little bit of a barrier between me and the people that were on the other side. Um, and I can be honest in saying that Twitch is the same way. I'm sitting in a
Yes,
room by
agreed.
myself,
Mhm.
talking to people on the interwebs. You may or may not be real. I don't know. You might be a figment of my imagination, but there definitely is a barrier here between us. Now, if we're in a room together, that's a little bit different, and it's got different dynamics and things. So, um, it took me a long time to realize I truly was an introvert. I'd say I probably didn't even realize that until I was maybe 30, so 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And then I started saying what you were just talking about. What is it that I truly feel and want? And
Mhm.
I felt so pressured, and still feel so pressured by society, to be extroverted and social, because that's supposed to be
Mhm.
normal. And if you are
Mhm.
introverted, you're not normal, or at least you're not seen as normal. Why don't you want to go out and talk to people and party and have friends and do all this and that? And I'm like, because I look at most people and I think they're idiots. But it's like, I, why, and this is one of the questions that I've asked myself constantly over the last several years, is why is it such a huge thing that children are pushed into social activities and all of these things, and you have to be an extrovert or there's something
Mhm.
wrong with you. And yeah, I just don't know about all that. And I think it's perfectly fine to be an introvert in a lot of scenarios. So
Yeah.
if you're choosing not to put yourself out there for certain reasons, including your opinions or anything else that's feeding that thought process, I think that's perfectly fine. But you also, I think, want to be aware, if I can give you a little bit of advice, that your opinions have just as much value as mine. If we take a concept like people are created equally, or just
Mhm.
people are equal, okay? You're no more important than I am, and neither of us is more important than a senator or a businessman or, you know, the lowliest person out there. We're all equal. That means your opinions are just as valid as mine. You may
Mhm.
be wrong about them. I may be wrong about my opinions,
Yeah.
but they have equal weight to them. So
Mhm.
if I can give you a little bit of advice, just know that in pursuit of attempting not to create controversy or any type of head against head because you might have differing opinions than someone, one, I would say seek out other people that do have your same opinions, because that's someone that you can talk to without feeling like you're going to be sabotaged. and
Mhm.
and two, when it comes to people that you know are going to pull that stunt and just automatically turn it into controversy because they're right and you're wrong, just shy away from that, because that's a toxic personality trait and
Mhm.
not somebody that you want to try to necessarily develop a friendship with in the first place. Um,
Yeah.
but that leaves people in the middle, and that is the people that you might disagree with, but they're not toxic, and there might be a little bit of controversy, but if you actually try to actively understand each other, you can definitely find more people that you agree with. And I think that's
Mhm.
an untapped resource for you.
Mhm.
So just take that into consideration.
Yeah, I
Uh,
will. Thanks.
all right. So now I want to switch gears and ask you two questions. The first being, who is a public person from the past or present, some celebrity or historical figure, somebody everybody would know, or most everybody would know, that you look up to and admire, and why?
I don't really feel this is so lame. I'm sorry. I don't really feel like I have one. Even in school when we would write about like our heroes and stuff, just say I feel like kind of like what you just said, like celebrities and people, like they're all just like us. Like I don't know. Um, I
All
don't
right,
feel like there's
let
any
me.
public figure that I look up to like that.
That's that's fine, but let me rephrase it then a little bit, because you're right. That's absolutely true. We are all equal. Not look up to, admiration might be there, but how about somebody you look at their personality traits, the way they do things, and you want to emulate that?
As far as like public people.
Yeah, somebody like, let's say there's somebody in the government who cuts through all the bullshit, and you just like, yeah, that's the type of thing I would say if I was there, or just somebody who has said or done something publicly that you're like, yeah, that was the right thing they did, and that's something I would want to do.
Um, I this is very like obscure because not a lot of people would know who she is, but there is this person that I follow on social media, not Twitter anymore because she left Twitter.
Mhm.
But her name is Jackie Hill Perry.
How do you spell it,
Um
please?
Jackie, and then Hill, so Hill, and then Perry is Perry.
She's a poet.
She's a poet, author, and I don't even remember how I came across her. I think because she is Christian, but she also just has a lot of like the same views I do that a lot of like I guess Christians, quote unquote, always agree with. Um, but she just I feel like she thinks very intellectually about things. You can tell she puts a lot of thought into what she says. She's also just really funny, but she's
Hmm.
also a poet, and she has like music out that I really like, and um, she is a mom, and she's just a really interesting person. But I also just appreciate her thought and the way that she talks about things, and her views especially. It's never from a place of attack or putting down others, but just encouraging people to think about things and consider these things. I mean, as a Black woman, also like obviously as a Black woman, as a Christian, she has a lot of thoughts and a lot of perspectives about things. And sometimes I agree with her, sometimes I don't, but she just is so graceful and articulate in the way she talks about things, and I really appreciate that.
Okay. And then the second question on that note is the same thing with somebody private, somebody that we don't know, someone in your personal life, and you do not have to name them or your relationship to them, but this is somebody that you really admire, the way they do things, and you want to emulate.
My dad, and I've always been very vocal about that my whole life. My dad, is an incredible person. He is very selfless. He firmly believes like his family like is his purpose and his reason for everything he does, and he puts other people first. He's so kind to everyone. He is an extremely hard worker. He works too hard, in my opinion, but he has just a wonderful work ethic and the way he's driven. And I mean, so many of the things I care about, like and enjoy video games, um, the like Marvel, the TV shows I like, the things I enjoy, music. A lot of that came from him. But
Hmm.
he's just a great person, a stand up guy, down to earth, driven, and just so many qualities about him that I really try to emulate in my own life.
Okay. All right. So I don't think he's still in chat, but if he's watching us later, so Yakimo, um, she's not the wild child for sure, and she thinks you're the bee's knees. Okay,
Yes, those are the cliff notes.
there we go. All right, then finally, we're going to turn to gaming. So, describe your Twitch channel and presence.
It's chaotic and sporadic. Um, my Twitch channel, I'm a variety streamer, meaning I stream a variety of games and finish none of them. I have
That's not
kind
true.
of
You
just
finished down well,
I did after
and
so
didn't you also
long.
finish Celeste?
I have a couple times. There's a whole
Yeah.
list of games I've finished.
Okay. Well, there you
That's kind
go.
of the running gag is that I don't, because there's a
Huh.
lot, probably a longer list that I haven't, but I have finished a fair amount of games. But right now I'm really just kind of resetting and enjoying some more chill games. So Stardew Valley I just started. I'm going to start streaming Animal Crossing again soon before
Hmm.
we transition into spooky season, where I'll be doing more kind of scary games, I guess. Don't ask what yet because I haven't compiled my list, but I did that last year with Five Nights at Freddy's and Alien and things like that, and it was fun because I'll never play games like that outside of spooky season. Um, but yeah, it's I'm there because I love video games, but I love this community more, and I love talking to people. There are people that I met back when I first started streaming who still like show up to streams, and they're like younger. So seeing how life is going now that they're like starting college and getting their first jobs and stuff, like that's so cool. And then if they ask me for advice, it just melts my heart. And also I'm like, are you sure you want my advice? But I just love being able to be there for people. I think that comes across in my streams too. I hope I do. That yes, I care about games. I love games truly, but I care about people more,
Okay.
and that's why I love doing this. My stream schedule is sporadic. I post it on Twitter, but it kind of varies right now. It's hard to have a set schedule because with my bartending job, it is kind of it varies, and then being a mom, things can kind of vary with that too. I
Yeah.
have 50-50 custody with my son, so there's some days that are like I know like Tuesday mornings I can always do Pokemon with Cage, but there are other days where it's like, well, this week I might be able to stream, this week I might not. But I do try to put a schedule out on Twitter now to say roughly for sure what day and roughly what time, because we all know I am very late all the time.
Right.
So yeah.
Whitney refused to put a schedule together except for a loose let's do Sundays and Tuesdays because she hated the fact that she would make a schedule and then constantly break it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I, on the other hand, have made a schedule through like a year from now because that is what helps me determine what I am capable and able to actually do. And I have zero problems canceling a show if I feel I'm not able to do that.
Yeah.
And I go in there literally almost every day and in that schedule to make sure that's going to match what I can actually do, or at least attempt to do that. And the thing that I found is that it greatly helps me in doing the streaming that I want to do. I told Cage a while ago I wanted to as quick as possible ramp up to 6 days a week and do
Mm-hmm.
various things. And if I'm actually going to do that, I have to keep it all straight in my head because I can't do the chaos. It nags at me constantly. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of
Yeah.
that translates over to you, but
It does for sure. The schedule helps me as long as other aspects of my life aren't like that aren't on stream are scheduled out as well.
yeah.
That's where I start breaking my schedule. Is if I have my Twitch schedule, but I haven't been paying attention to like my work schedule or other things I have happening, then it's like, oh well, I forgot about this, so the stream can't happen. But I've been better about having everything just scheduled out. I have my calendars, my
Mhm.
planners, and it's been helpful for sure to have the schedule.
Right. Okay. Oh, and about spooky games, which one of the Five Nights at Freddy's did you do? Just the first one?
The first one, I did nights 1 through 4, and so I've been thinking, like, should I do it again? Should I just do night 5? Should I just skip to the second one? I
You're
don't
you're
know.
you're not you're not actually missing anything from what I've seen because I watched. In fact, I'm actually a big fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, the entire franchise. I bought like the novels and that, and I got into it because of
Mhm.
Markiplier. And
Yes, me too.
watching him play, and I would say you're not really missing anything by not doing night 5. It's all of the same. It's just harder.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the way Super Mario ramps up as you get in higher levels, and it's all the same stuff. But I would say go ahead and move on to the next game because it's a totally different experience. And
Okay.
in fact, Scott Cawthon did, I thought, an excellent job of varying the experiences of his games, because each one
Mhm.
is a little bit different and does different gameplay and different types of ways in order to do that. The jump scares are pretty much the same, although they vary as well. But I would say just go ahead on to number 2 and go all the way up through the entire series because I like them all. And
Okay, yeah. Good to hear then.
maybe tap Whitney and see
Mhm.
what she might suggest, something that you play that'll scare the shit out of you.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm up for recommendations because that was my struggle last year, was to find one that
Hmm.
would actually be fun. I think that I started playing Alien last year, but it was so hard for me to figure out and to get to the scary parts.
Right,
And that's the thing, is I just want things to be scary, to be
right,
on theme, and less about like the actual gameplay, which sounds so anti games, but I just want spooky things. I want it to be playable, of course, but yeah, so I'll hit
right.
her up for sure.
Yeah, she's probably got a really good handle on that. What's gonna fit your bill? Okay. So what are let's do this first. What is your absolute favorite game of all time?
um, Super Mario 64 is my favorite game of all time.
Okay. And I also know
Mhm.
that Halo, the whole Halo series, holds a special
Yes.
place in your heart.
I was gonna say Halo 3 is a close runner-up for favorite game, and I mean, Halo, the franchise, is what got me really into gaming, and I've spent so many hours, bypassing my dad's Xbox passcode to just play Halo all night, so that franchise is very special to me.
Right. Um, In all of the games that you encountered, what is the game that you absolutely hated and you will not ever touch again?
Um, Kingdom Hearts, Chain of Memories, which I feel like I didn't play more than maybe 5 minutes of it. I made my co-streamer play the rest of it, but it was just awful. And then like Superman 64, obviously, I got through the first level by miracle, and it's not playable, so I will never play it again.
I've heard horror stories about that. I've also heard horror stories about the ET on Atari, but well,
Mm.
we're definitely going to check that one out here. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I just gotta get the tech settled. Um, so when looking at a new game, what are the parts of the game that you look for? You know, what makes it interesting or fun to you, and you say, "I want to play this."
I look at what style of game it is. Open world, RPGs I'm more wary of because I, you know, again, I don't know if it's my brain or just my personality, but I get really overwhelmed by all that there is to do.
Mhm.
And I want to do it all, and so just kind of like crumble because I want to do it all, so I do nothing. Um, so like platformers, if it's a platformer, I'm going to give it a go. Um, but I will, or if it's a shooter, I'll probably play it because it'll be fun. I like first person shooters, but I also look at the story now. And that's something that I didn't do until I got into streaming. Games like Undertale, which was really important to me, and Celeste, where there is story and it deals with things that I can relate to. If I feel like I can see part of me in a character, or like I can just like the story pulls on my heart a little bit, then I'll play it regardless of what type it is. So I guess story to some extent, but also just the style of game it is. And then there's some games like Pokemon where I'm going to play it no matter what because it's Pokemon and I'm in
Okay.
too deep.
And on that note, I have to say that you are completely and totally at fault for getting me into the Celeste soundtrack. I've been listening to that thing almost nonstop since you played it last.
So good. You're welcome.
Um, and there's the is it the mountain? I can't remember the name of it. The when you were playing, it was the one that I said I was really enjoying the
I
music.
don't remember,
I
but I
found
think it was like earlier levels.
Yeah, I found that on repeat for like 2 hours on YouTube, so I just play that video over.
Yes. That soundtrack is my go-to if I'm studying or working. I'll just throw that soundtrack on to have background noise.
And also, I mean, that song in particular, the whole soundtrack is good, but that song in particular, I so much really love its entire layering and everything that it's one of the songs I would recommend you search on YouTube for covers because I found some absolutely fantastic artists out there that have done their own versions of that song and they just pop so hard. Uh, so yeah, check that out. Um, and is there any other games that have really piqued your interest? I know Halo 3. Any other games that have piqued your interest in the music field?
um Undertale's soundtrack was really good. It's not a soundtrack because of how whimsical it can be, where I could just throw it on and have it on, but the title track from it, like the song Undertale from Undertale,
Hmm.
that song is one of my favorite I've encountered from games. The Kingdom Hearts soundtrack I really enjoy. Yeah, those are kind of the main ones.
Okay. And we didn't talk about it, but now that I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and insert a little bit here about your music life. So obviously music is a big influence in you. You started in high school with playing the flute in band. Any other
Oh, I started
instruments?
playing the flute in elementary school.
Elementary school. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I got into college on scholarship was for music. Because in high school I still did flute in concert, but then I switched to percussion and marching band. So I marched bass drum one winter, but then beyond that, I did the auxiliary instruments. So xylophone, vibraphone, marimba, timpani. I loved doing that. Marimba was my favorite. I was saying yesterday on stream how I wish I could just have a marimba in my home, But if you don't know what it is, think xylophone, but larger and with wooden.
Yeah,
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 exactly. I know you know what it
and
is, so
and extremely expensive too.
I was gonna say extremely expensive, extremely large, not really realistic to have one in my home, but I miss it so much. I took piano lessons for a while. Um, I had a guitar I kind of played around with for a while, but other than percussion and flute, like those were my main things.
Okay. And how does that translate into your music taste now? Like, what are your favorite bands and artists and genres?
Don't really have. I don't feel like like my flute has translated into my music taste per se. And I don't know that percussion has either. I think that I just definitely pay attention to instrumentation in general. I enjoy when the drums are different or unique in a song or well done. Same with bass. My dad played bass. I feel like the bass is an underrated instrument when it comes to like your typical rock band. So I enjoy like a good bass line. But I enjoy all genres of music, and I genuinely mean that. Um, I definitely have some that I'm more in the mood for than others. Classic rock, alternative, those are the ones that I'm usually listening to. But I also really enjoy rap, and my favorite artist is Taylor Swift. I'm not ashamed of that. I just very much so appreciate all genres, all different types of music. I've been heavily influenced by both my parents, who have completely different tastes, and so I'm thankful to be able to be adaptable. It makes me an easy passenger on car rides because I don't care what you listen to. I'm going to enjoy it. Obviously, there's some usually with more mainstream music, not to sound like a hipster, where I'm like, what is this? What why what is this? I can't listen. A lot of like modern pop music can be hard to listen to. A lot of rap can be hard to listen to for me. I'm kind of picky with those, but classic rock, alternative, those are my two favorite genres. And then sometimes I get on my country kick or a rap kick here and there.
Hmm. Okay. Do you own any musical instruments?
I have my flute still. It is broken. One day,
Oh,
maybe I'll repair or replace it. I know I've been wanting to repair it for so long, but it's just not a priority.
right.
So sad.
What
I remember like I bought all this sheet music. I was excited to play it again. And then it wasn't working. So that was that.
what's wrong with it?
I think the mouthpiece is dented, and I'm not sure if that's what's causing the issue, but for sure the padding, like it's just wear, it happens with time.
Right.
Some of the padding has like just disintegrated, and so the air is escaping, and it's just not playable.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Did you get any quotes from a repair
No,
shop?
because I'm terrified. I'm terrified that they're going to be like, yeah, you need to just replace it because it is older too. But no,
Well,
I
yeah, but
mean,
it could be
obviously,
restored depending on how much it costs.
yeah, I haven't yet. I need to because that at least could be something I can work towards then. But no, I haven't.
And this is the same flute that you had in school?
Not the exact same one. I did get it replaced once, but like it's the same one I've had since like high school.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So that just about ends up my line of interrogation here. I'm sure we can stop the waterboarding and whatever else. Do you have any messages for the people that are in chat?
I love you all. Nothing beyond that. I'm just grateful for this community. There, like I said, I'm looking at the chat right now. And I mean, slight, I'm obligated to love. But other than
Yeah,
that,
Slight.
like,
If she wasn't obligated, you're already off the list.
no, but I'm just so thankful for these people and like so many of them that I've been able to meet in person that I know like these are my friends. Like you're my friend, and it's amazing. It's just an incredible thing to be able to have that community. I've always kind of struggled like feeling like I belong in a group of friends, and I just feel like I can completely be myself with everyone here. And that's a really special thing. So I'm just thankful for all of you, and I love you, and you're amazing.
Okay, one more thing that you said earlier that I wanted to ask you, but I forgot about it until just now. You said you would like to give your friends advice. So do you have any advice for me?
I mean, did I want to give my friends advice? Do I have advice for you?
I can't remember exactly what the context was, but you were saying something about how
I
you.
think I was talking about, like, there's been a lot of, like, younger people, on my streams and stuff. Like, I could think of one, like, young guy in particular who, like, they found me when they were, like, finishing high school and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see them. But for you, you were, older than I. But I know it's hard for you, and you'll be the first to admit it, but just encourage you to look at the bright side of, like, people, and just remember that,
Oh,
yeah,
fuck that
people
shit. No, just
can suck. But there are also, and I know you know it, but just remembering consciously that there are good people. And
Oh,
that
I know.
there's good
I
stuff
know.
out there.
I know there's good people out there. I think the good people get overwhelmed by the amount of bad people, or the people that are so apathetic about being good or bad that they end up being bad. You know.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll think about it. How about that?
Just, be more positive. Consider it. Consider it. That's all I ask.
Yes, I am old as fuck. You got it. All right.
No.
So I'm going to do some coming attractions here on the ABC channel. If you have any questions for my guest, Steph, put them in the chat now. And I mean right the fuck now, because I will ask her when we come back from this. All right, so tomorrow I found myself with some extra time. So tomorrow I'm going to do a special time show that's 11 a.m. on Tuesday, and I will be diving back into Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, and preparation for my speed run. If you recall, I had a controller issue with the emulator. Well, short of actually hooking up my NES and doing a console capture, I wanted to try to fix that issue. So I did. I found a workaround with that by using a different type of USB controller. So that issue is solved, and I will now be, but I haven't touched it in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months at least. So I need to practice up again before I do the speed run, remember the path I need to take and all that. So that's what I will be starting tomorrow. I'll probably do at least 2 streams of that before doing the speed run, but I will be getting back into that starting with tomorrow. Wednesday night, I will be showing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in the Conflux Discord for our DMCA Nope series. Big fan of Gene Wilder. I have always been a big fan of Gene Wilder, and he has unfortunately passed now. But absolutely fantastic movies, and almost anything he's acted in I love. And this is a near and dear favorite to me, and I would like to share it with you. If you have not seen it, or you haven't seen it recently, stop on by Wednesday night, and we will satisfy that chocolate desire. Then on Thursday, our That's Not Real Trek podcast continues. Short and Sweet and I watching all of the new Star Trek that's been made in the last 6 years. This Thursday, we are considering Discovery, Season 2, Episodes 3 and 4. We're doing about 2 episodes every week, so it's chugging right along. This will be our 10th episode, and fairly soon we're going to be starting into a new series. We've been doing primarily just Discovery and a few of the short treks so far, but pretty soon we will be venturing into the newest series from CBS, and that is Strange New Worlds. And then I wanted to mention to you that we had put together a sort of like a play date in which us toddlers, primarily Cage and I, will be playing Monopoly with a bunch of other people, and that's going to be this coming Sunday at 12 noon. Now, I'm a huge Monopoly fan, and I know Short and Sweet is a huge Monopoly fan. Cage is not a huge Monopoly fan. In fact, he's probably the sorest loser that was in the history of the universe on Monopoly, and therefore we're going to kick his ass in this game. And I'm waiting for like the virtual Monopoly board to be flipped off of the table and the pieces scattering everywhere in the room because of his rage. So you're not going to want to miss that. That's going to be starting at 12 noon. And you know, if you've ever played Monopoly, you know that a good Monopoly game takes like no less than 16 hours. So we're going to be at it, but we will finish in a relatively decent amount of time because when that's over, I'm going to take a short break and then I'll be coming back at 7 p.m. for our next in the RecTech series. I'm going to be doing some audio cables. I mentioned previously that I was a DJ, and I have tons and tons of audio cables that none of them work. So we're going to be fixing them. We're going to be making sure that they work as they should be working. And now that I have some more recent knowledge on how to do that properly, I will be just doing that. It'll be a nice chill stream on Sunday evening. And, maybe you can get some of those requests in and change the hat or play the sound alerts or anything that makes you happy. So stop on by for that. All right, let's see here. Do we have any questions whatsoever? Because there's also times that they don't think of any questions. Let's see. Bass is underrated.
Okay.
I thought many times that we need to start a Conflux band. Because we got to fix your flute, but you're the flutist, and you can play the marimba at the same time you're playing the flute, and
Yes.
Maleggio is the bassist. Tuba is obviously going to do some kind of horned instrument, and then Joel plays the piano. And I just sit there in the dark with my sunglasses and my hat and my cigar and collect the money or something. I don't know. But yeah, we need to do a Twitch band or something. You guys with all
That would
the
be amazing.
musical thingamabobbers, Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. All right. So if there's no other questions, then we will say goodbye. So thank you, Steph, for joining us this evening. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Now, hopefully, you have a much better insight into who this beautiful person is and have seen her extraordinary qualities. She's very normal, but she also is extraordinary, just like all of you. So I may ask you at some point in the future to be a guest on this show because one, I'm a student of human psychology, and two, you all are much better people than you probably think you are. So, Steph's favorite game to stream?
My favorite game to stream. I was Downwell for a long time, but I've been it. But Downwell and Celeste are definitely my comfort games, which is funny because they're so difficult. But I really enjoy streaming both of those, and I've streamed them both multiple times.
Okay. Yes, I am collecting all your secrets to blackmail you later.
Yes, this is true.
Shit, dude, I can't even remember my own ass, two hands or something like that. How does that, I can't even remember how the phrase goes, so.
Your own ass two hands.
Yeah. You got a question, Maleggio. We'll spit it out.
Oh, he asked if I could make a game, what would it be like?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it.
Oh my goodness.
There it is.
I would want it to be like a first-person shooter, but I would be the main character. And I get to just shoot things, and there'd be like awesome like rock music the whole time. So I guess basically both me as the main character.
Okay, so this is going to be a game where we play as Stephanie, shooting everything up while rock music is playing in the background.
Yeah, we're rocking out while we're doing it, and we're just feeling badass, and it's like just fun, like visuals, and it's bright, but people are dying. It'd be chaos.
Okay. Well, you know what you need to do is you need to get a hold of one of those people that mods games and one that mods Halo 3 and have them create a character sprite that looks like you. So you could just, overlay that in the game and then there you go.
There you go. But yeah, honestly, I have no idea. So we'll go with that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up then. So thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you coming out. Don't do anything I wouldn't do because, well, Steph ain't gonna do that shit. She already told me that, and you better believe when she says she ain't gonna do that shit, because when she says she ain't gonna do that shit, she ain't gonna do that shit, man. All right, let's find somebody to raid here. If you have any suggestions, you can put them in the chat, and we'll see what's the what in the thing with the Twitches and the stuff. Gaming Avengers is on with The Last of Us. We got Fysock doing Minecraft. Ray is doing Tower of Fantasy. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Buck is on with Star Wars. Urkulon, Valorant. Couple other people here and there. If you have any suggestions for who you would like me to raid, put that in there right now. Right the fuck now! You vote for Ray. Okay, well then we'll do Ray. It's been a minute since I've... Well, what the hell? Ray Durant. I'll make sure I spelled it right. Okay, there we go. All right, thank you all for joining me. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, because I already covered that. If you weren't listening the first time, I don't know what to tell you. You really need to pay more attention on my streams, you people that you're lazy and you just start, lackadaisically. That's a good word for you. That's the word of the day, lackadaisically. Just, not paying attention to what I'm saying. And hell, I'm not even paying attention to what I'm saying. So good on you. Hey, where are we? Who are you people? Let's go say hi to Ray. Adios.